Hi, I'm Kenneth Kloeppel, founder of Transport Pro. I didn't know anything about TMS and what a TMS even was. When we got into it, I came through the .com boom and was building web applications for lotteries and, marketing companies, and it was a lot different than a lot of these other founders where they started in a brokerage and they knew what transportation was. We just happened to have a trucking company that was a customer, and we did a few little things, and they came to us and said that they needed a new TMS. And I said, well, what is a TMS? I didn't know what that was. And so I had to quickly learn and kind of immerse myself into their business for about 6 months, just trying to figure out what trucking was and what were the problems that they had. I think sometimes they overcomplicate. A lot of TMSs overcomplicate the needs. I had one the other day that they moved to 3 different TMSs in the course of 4.5 years. And, it didn't end up being a fit for us. And I think that maybe that's what they get wrong, is they don't listen to the customer up front and really understand what their business is and make sure that they're being authentic about what their product can do and can support. When we go into it, we want to know what your business does, and we're going to make sure it's a good fit for both of us before we ever move forward. Because I don't want to end up where you have to, use our TMS for a while, you're not happy with it, and then you're having to switch your business around. And at the same time with us, we don't want to put all those resources into it, and you're not happy with that. And I think that that's probably where they get wrong the most. The technology is there. All these TMSs have great technology. We think we do ours better, but it's really getting down and understanding that customer. I think at our core, the principles that we're always going off of is that it has to be simple and it has to solve a problem. We're not into whether or not something should be pink or purple. It really has to solve the problem that they're having today and allow that customer to grow. So we're going to go into it with ease of use is one of the big things for us, and as well as availability and scalability. So it always has to be online. It always has to be quick and easy for a user to pick up on. So if you've got a new employee, it's really easy to set them down in front of Transport Pro and they're going to figure it out really quick. Versus, if you go to other softwares that are out there, you have training programs and, all of this that you've got to put in place. And ours is, simple. So I think the core philosophies around what we do at Transport Pro is make sure that it's an easy software to use and it's easy for you to scale with your company. We have to be in communication with the clients at all the times when we're trying to build things, because we're not sitting on the front lines. We don't know how the market shifts as fast as they do. We're reading about it later on LinkedIn or Freight Caviar or one of these others, but we might already be too late to that game. We want to know what people are seeing now and how can we start to build solutions with them to be ready for that next step. Not coming from that traditional mode of, TMS founder where maybe you were in a trucking company or in a brokerage and you kind of knew what that was. We really had to dive down in deep to figure out what was going on inside of that trucking company and make it better. I think that a lot of software companies that are out there, regardless of the vertical that you're in, if they come from that industry, it's sometimes hard to break bad habits. Well, when we started, we didn't have bad habits. We just saw problems or puzzles that we had to solve. And we came in, we took a traditional model of a trucking company and a TMS. We saw what that was. We said, hey, I think it would make more sense to do it this way. How can we take this 5-step process and make it a 3-step process? How can we find those things? And I don't think that when you live in that space of being in transportation, sometimes it just, you get the answer. It is what it is. We put 5 people there because we have to have 5 people. We've always had 5 people, or we've always done it this way. Whereas the outsider like me is going to look at it and say, well, I mean, based on what I've seen in other industries, we would do it, with 3 steps instead of 5. It's tough because brokers and carriers are getting hit all day long with a new product or a new technology or AI this or AI that, and this will, revolutionize the way that you do business. And I think you really have to get down to the core of what is it that you do and what are the challenges that you're having, because you can spend a lot of time trying to implement technology or implement new software that'll never get you there, and it's very expensive. One of the things that I ask people is, does this move the needle? It's probably one of the most common questions I ask my customers when they start talking about a new feature is I listen to it, I listen to the idea, and sometimes what I'll be like, yeah, that's a good idea. And then, hey, let's follow up on it in a couple weeks. And then maybe they bring it back up again. And then, usually I've got a customer who says, I know that if I bring it up a third time, it's probably a good idea, right? And so we're listening to all that from all of our customers. And all of a sudden we start hearing those things. But I still come back to, does this move the needle? Does this increase your bottom line? Does it, bring in more revenue? Does it cut costs to enhance your EBITDA? What is it? Does it move the needle? Because if it's just changing something from pink to purple, that doesn't move the needle. And so, we always want to be having those conversations with our customers, because in the end, as makes our product better. We're able to continuously develop new technology right inside of Transport Pro because of the feedback that we get from our customers. We've definitely had features that we've developed over the years that I thought was a great idea. And then you try to put it in place, you try to put it in production, you get some people to use it for, a couple weeks, and it just really didn't have that ROI that we thought it was going to have. And you just kind of abandon it and go on, take your licks and go on. I think that the big part about team culture in a technology organization is that everybody's got to be creative. And it's not just creativity from a programming standpoint. It's being creative with your customers. So it starts from the very beginning when our sales team is talking to a new potential lead and making sure that they're listening and trying to hear what are the challenges that customer has, because it's going to be somewhat unique. I mean, I don't like to put everybody in a box. A lot of things are the same, but that sales person on our team has to be creative in saying, okay, well, I understand this challenge. Let me take it back to our technology team and see what they think about that. And then our technology team has to be creative as well and saying, okay, well, we know of this problem. We've heard it from a couple customers. How are we going to build this? Sometimes there's not a solution out there for some of this stuff. And we have to put on our creative hat and say, okay, well, this is what the pages would look like, and this is how the data needs to be stored. And, we start out with 100 records and we move to 1,000 records, but what if we move to 1,000,000 records? How do we do this? So we've got to be creative from the very beginning. And then I think there always has to be a lot of communication. A lot of tech companies that are out there that we deal with today and we integrate with, they're just like us. They're all remote. And so it's getting up every day. It's making sure that you have stand-up meetings and everybody has that desire to want to drive the product forward. They want to provide the right solution for their customers so that when their customer comes in on Monday morning, everything's good to go. We can't control that the truck broke down or, something happened at the shipper, but we can control our side. I came from the world of servers and big colocation rooms and designing scaled systems back, when the internet just started. And I knew right away that we had to have things online. We had to build processes in place and put in the right servers or the right services so that our systems never go down. Knock on wood, in the last 15 years, true, outage, if you will. I mean, we're the first ones to raise our hand, 15 minutes, unscheduled downtime. It was back up and going within a couple minutes. Add that up over a course of 15 years. It's really good. And our maintenance windows are really short. We update all the time on the weekends or in the evening. And most of the time, our customers don't even know that it happened. It just happens so fast. And we take that approach with everything. When we're designing part of our software, we know that it has to be able to scale to 1 million records or 2 million records or 15 million records, and it's got to be fast. So we take that approach from the very beginning of thinking about how are we going to do that, because we can't have it where a report or a page takes 30 minutes to load, or if it goes down. We make sure that our solutions are always online because they always have to be online. In transportation today, you can't have your TMS solution go offline. You just can't. It goes into a standstill. You can't just pick up a sheet of paper and start operating again. Defining success for a customer is oftentimes challenging because, everybody wants to focus on the actual tangible KPI. Did we raise revenue? Did we lower EBITDA? Yes, Transport Pro has done that for a lot of companies. And that is definitely a success marker for us, where we can show where one company went from a $3 million broker to a $15 million broker, or we show where somebody has increased margins by bidding better through our technology. And those are those tangible things. But I think just as important, it's the ability to have less stress. So when your organization is not as stressed because it's more efficient, things are right there in front of them when they need it, they get the answers that they need and can make quick decisions, then when you come in on Monday morning, you don't have that stress of, I've got to go throw 15 reports together and put that together for our C-suite team. And, there's that level of stress, and there's a vibe that happens. So I think a lot of times we get rid of that, or we can at least bring it down a few notches. And that is a level of success that we look for when somebody implements a TMS. TMS has a bad word out there where, when somebody thinks about needing to change their TMS, they don't want to do it. They think about the pain of having to switch TMS. And while it can be challenging, we want you to do it once. And we want you to be with us forever because it has less stress. It makes your organization better as a whole. I think when you go to shop for a TMS, it comes down to you don't have to have everything. You really need to define what it is about your organization where you're having challenges and who you are, because there are so many people who are going to try to sell you on this feature and that's really cool. And maybe they do some really cool stuff with that, but they don't support you at your core. So you really got to go into it with a very open mind of, I don't have to have everything. I think the other thing you have to watch out for is there's a lot of smoke and mirrors out there. There's a lot of technology that you have got to watch out for, that it works in a lot of situations, but it may not work for you. Certain AI solutions that are out there aren't going to be the right solution for your company. You really have to go through the vetting process, make sure that it fits inside of your workflows and how you like to run freight before you just go sign up for it and buy it. I think transportation technology is really going to change. I'm saying 10 years. I think there's a lot of cool stuff that's happening right now. There's a lot of automation and the way that we can utilize AI. I think you've got a lot of companies who are starting to really take a step back and look at their organizations to see where can we be more efficient. But in the end, we're still designing for transportation of today. I think there are a lot of companies out there who are designing for transportation for tomorrow. And that's where small to medium-sized companies need to be focused right now, because the top 50 brokers and carriers that are out there are going all in on changing the way that supply chain is going to work. I don't know how that's going to change over the next 5 to 10 years, but I think that when we look at technology 10 years from now, it's going to be completely different than, hey, we just pick up a load and we move it down the road and we bill a customer. I think rates are going to change. I think the market's going to change. And I think it's going to be a challenging time in years 5 to 10. I think in the next 5, we're going to be able to still operate the way we operate. But there are so many inefficiencies in the way that the supply chain works as it comes with, especially around fraud and all of those other things that are really going to change how our industry works from an insurance perspective, from an authority perspective, and I think there's going to be law and legal that happens in the next 5 to 10 years. I think it's going to be a big change in the landscape of what supply chain is. We're always thinking about the future of Transport Pro, and we really focus on those small to medium-sized businesses. The large brokers, the large carriers that are out there, and those are those top 200 that you're talking about. Everybody's trying to find efficiencies inside of that, but we're always trying to say, hey, how can we let everybody play? How can we make it good for the small to medium-sized brokers and carriers, and allow them to be able to operate with the same tools, the same features, and do it at an affordable cost? As more and more of the top supply chain companies start to take over the market, there's still a lot of people who can make a good living in supply chain, and they can provide a great service by being human. The ability to have a real relationship with someone at your local shipper, small shipper that's down there, provide them a service of moving their freight. You've got to have technology that's going to do it, because all of the big guys are going to be coming against you. And so we are always looking at that next thing. How can we be creative? How can we build more solutions and integrate with more technology partners to make the TMS better and to make the experience for the company and the users better? The guy that likes to go fish. I think the way to be remembered is not who has the best technology, because there's going to be a new, better technology tomorrow. It's just always trying to keep up. I think that what's most important to me is that my clients know that I'm here. I'm here to listen. I'm here to try to help them through a situation, even if it's not a technology that I have, or maybe it's not a technology that's really at the core of Transport Pro. But they're going to remember that I picked up the phone, that I responded to an email, and that I helped make their business better in some way.